This time on Finnegan's Garage, we're taking 3 steps forward by taking 9 or 10 backwards. Yeah, I have to take all of this powder coat off of this charge tube so I can fix the turbo boat. I had a custom aluminum drive shaft made to go back here to replace the Bluetooth drive shaft that we had at SEMA a few years ago.
Yeah.
And that came in almost 3/4 of an inch too long. And rather than send my really nice aluminum drive shaft back to get rebuilt, we shoved the motor forward. And because the motor sits in the boat on an angle, when it went forward, everything got misaligned.
Mm-hmm.
So now we need to chop up that charge tube,
So
fix it, weld it, powder coat it.
I probably need to shorten it here and lengthen it here just to kind of get it to...
Right. And I think I need a piece off that tube to make the new one.
Yeah.
Which is why we got to get all that powder coat off. And thank God we have a tool to do it. Yeah. We'll show you that right now. You ever had to take powder coat off something before?
With a grinder and it sucked.
It sucked. Not today. Today's going to be easy. 12-volt Dave's Tetris game is on point because only he could bring in a brand new tool into my limited space basement, and we somehow end up with more room than we had before we brought in this blast cabinet. He's amazing. This beaut right here is the Shopmate. It's part of the Zero Blast Cabinet lineup of machines from Clemco. Clemco's the manufacturer. My friend Clay here, who's one of my neighbors actually, works for Rockridge Abrasives. He's the one that turned me on to Clemco and said, you don't have a lot of room in your basement, but you have a need for a blast cabinet, one that won't fill my house with dust, one will take the powder coating off this, and any other project we have here in the garage. And right now, he's going to teach me how to use this. And he has this awesome cutaway of the gun that's a part of the cabinet, and he's going to school me on how this actually functions.
So basically what happens in the cabinet, you have the blast media that goes in. You have 2 hoses. You actually have a siphon hose that brings the media up into the nozzle section, and you have an air jet that actually delivers the air to power the abrasive that goes out and cleans the surface. So what happens, you get a Venturi effect here between the air jet and the nozzle. So typically you have a half distance between this nozzle, or the air jet and the nozzle. And right now we're using a 5/16 nozzle, and these are color coded green, red, blue. You have a matching air jet that goes with that allows to get that draw and that siphon of abrasive up in to accelerate the abrasive to clean the part.
Cool. All right. And this is all commonly referred to as sandblasting, but you're going to notice there will be no sand in here today because Clay works for a company, Rockridge Abrasives, that makes all kinds of materials for removing stuff without destroying the gun and everything else around you, because there's a lot of things you don't want to breathe. Like, you don't want to breathe sand.
Right. No dust is safe to breathe, so you always want to be careful with that.
Right. So right now we're going to check out all the different media types he's got and what they're good for and what they're not good for. So the Shopmate is a suction blast cabinet. That means it's going to pick up media out of the cabinet itself, distribute it through the gun, clean our part, and then when you want to change media, you just open the ball valve in the bottom of the cabinet, dump it all out, and then refill it. Here are a whole bunch of different types of media, and Clay's going to tell me what the hell do they all do? Because it just looks like cinnamon and rust.
No.
Oh, and a little bit of sugar.
Exactly. We'll start with the sugar end down here.
Okay, sugar.
So this is glass bead abrasive. Most people know a cabinet as it's commonly referred to a bead blast cabinet. And because glass bead is one of the most common used abrasives in the industry for like a shop type application where you're trying to clean up a part, try to get a uniform matte finish. Comes in all different kinds of sizes. Anything from very fine, which this is a number 10 mil spec, which there's a commercial and mil spec, which we can offer as well. The mil spec is a little bit tighter tolerance on the sizing. So, it meets a lot of different demands as far as the sizing that you're looking for. But again, it gives a nice, clean, uniform matte finish, uses impact. It's a round particle as opposed to an angular particle that you see in a lot of the different abrasives. So, for its cleaning, it leaves a nice shiny finish.
Okay, and what will this remove? What do we look at?
It'll remove rust, it'll remove paint,
Okay.
Just depending on the thicknesses that you have of the different surface contamination that you have on the part. Okay. So, it does a nice job of cleaning, and it recycles up to about 10 times, depending on the grit size. If it's a little bit larger, you can get a few more recycles out of that, but A lot of the times you know, just depending on the size, obviously the finer you get, less recycles out of that.
And I'm guessing you don't ever want to put a greasy part in there because that's just going to waste the medium and contaminate it.
That is correct. You want a dry part to go into the cabinet.
Okay, all right, so that's glass bead. Not taking our powder coat off with that.
Right.
What about the rest of it?
So we've got Garnet abrasive, which is a subangular type media. Basically, it's like a number 7 on the Mohs hardness scale. That is an 80 grit, which is commonly used in water jet applications, which we deal with a lot of water jet parts and applications in our industry.
Okay.
You know, beyond the blasting. You know, very common abrasive. It recycles, you know, 3 to 5 times depending on the application, the surface that you're cleaning. So, you know, also it leaves a little bit different mill profile. So that's a peak and valley in the metal or surface that you're blasting on for paint adhesion or powder coat adhesion, those kind of things.
So this glass bead will leave it smoother, more uniform.
Right.
This is the one that's going to make kind of little microscopic valleys and stuff in it.
That's correct. So you have like a peak and valley, and depending on what kind of coating you have, the paint company will call out what kind of abrasive grit size that you'd want to have with that.
Okay, and that's Garnet.
Yeah, that's correct. So this is an 80 grit Garnet. This one is a 30-60 grit Garnet, which is typically used in like an outdoor blasting type application. So there's a lot of people that use a vapor or water blasting type units, and they'll use that abrasive in it because it's got a really good specific gravity. So when it makes impact with the surface, it does a lot of cleaning when it does that. So it's great for surface preparation. So, you know, for that, it's great. Then we've got one more size that's a little bit coarser. That's a number 24. Again, used in kind of an outdoor blasting type application. Some people will use this in a cabinet, just depends on the application, but most of the time it's used in like an outdoor blasting. So if you were doing a frame or something like that, that would be a little bit more of what you'd use. A very low dust as well with this, just because of that specific gravity. So everybody's looking to try to reduce their dust from the surface.
So these two, the more coarse kinds of Garnet, these you'd use not necessarily in the shopmate, but in an outdoor blasting deal.
Typically you would, but again, with the shopmate, you're able to change medias out, and you know, so you could use that as well.
Oh, okay. All right. And then how about the ones that, what are those, gray?
Yeah, so this is aluminum oxide. Aluminum oxide is very hard material. It's about a 9 on the Mohs hardness scale.
Very fine.
So yeah, this one is a little bit finer, you know, typically what we would see in a cabinet. Now it does go up to a coarser grit, you know, just depending on what you're looking at. This is an 80 grit and a 120 grit. So again, you know, depending on what kind of surface profile and smoothness or roughness that you want on the part, that's kind of what you would do with that. So, you know, again, this will recycle about 10 times. You know, a lot of this is used on, I know you use coated discs, which, you know, for
like flap discs,
that kind of thing. So you'll see aluminum oxide is a common abrasive on that as well.
Okay, so in terms of our charge tube is made out of mandrel bent thin wall aluminum. It's covered in powder coat. Powder coat is notoriously hard to get off. What do we use, and is it going to be a 2-step process? Do we go with something really rough to remove it and then go back over it with something smoother so we can re-powder coat it?
You can. I mean, it just depends on how many mil bills of powder coat that you want to put onto the part. You know, typically the deeper the peak and valley, the more mil build you'll want to have on the part.
Okay.
So we can experiment around with it a little bit. You know, sometimes it really depends on the powder coating. It's just my favorite how long is a rope question. You know, how fast will this do it, or how much will it do? It really depends on the part and the coating that's on it.
Okay, so trial and error here, I'm guessing. So why don't we try the trailer hitch for my wife's car, because that doesn't have powder coat on it, but we can at least see how it takes off rust and dirt and all that.
Right.
And then move on to the powder coat. Cause here's where the shopmate rules and why it's perfect for my garage and might be the right one for you, all right? It's a suction blast cabinet, okay? You can load a part from the front or from either side. So whether you shove this thing up against the wall on that side or this side, both ends of the cabinet open. And if you have a really big part, you can drop it in from the top too. So if you ever lose control of the gun inside and you just happen to sandblast the viewing area, it's like a tear off for like a motorcycle helmet. Like you can pretend you're Jeremy McGrath or Chad Reed or anyone else from the 90 or early 2000s who used to rule at Supercross, and you just rip your tear off, and you have a fresh piece of glass in there for you, ready to go. You're never going to get tired when using the machine because you're just holding the gun. You're not squeezing a trigger in there. It's foot operated, right? You just push down on the pedal. That gets the air and the media going. It'll run off 120 volt AC power, so you don't need 220. You don't need 3-phase. This thing rips. It has a light inside. You want to change media? You just slide a bucket under the bottom of it, open the ball valve, and it dumps all the media out. So you can quickly go from, you know, really coarse stuff to really fine stuff, no matter what you're working with. That's the other thing that rips is visibility is really good in this thing. So dust collector right here plugs right into the machine, and the air hose goes right there, and it sucks everything out while it's operating, and you can see really well inside of the shop heat. It's amazing.
You know, this is a heavy gauge material, so it's a lot different than a lot of the you know, the ones that are out there on the market where you could actually push up against this and you're going to dent the cabinet in. Really heavy duty construction. So
right.
That also helps with having a leak of dust out into your shop. You know, it's really good to keep the dust inside the cabinet.
Yep.
So that's a really nice feature with this cabinet too.
Yeah, so basically this thing, I would classify this as like prosumer grade. Like this isn't the kind of thing you're gonna get at a bargain retail store, okay? But it's also not the kind of thing that's so big and requires so much power that you're only gonna find it in a professional shop, somebody that's, you know, blasting chassis and stuff like that.
Right.
The one thing you do have to consider when using a unit like this is you need a pretty damn good air compressor. I actually upgraded the one in the shop here so that we'd have 20 plus CFM to run this thing efficiently. So you're gonna wanna keep that in mind. So I've had this hitch for a long time. I traded, pretty sure it was Roadkill fans, some Roadkill t-shirts for this. And this is a trailer hitch that is actually meant to go under the back of my wife's El Camino so that she could tow some stuff while breaking down if she wanted to. I don't know if she's gonna want to, but I'm tired of carrying it around from house to house when we move, and I'm tired of it just sitting on the floor of the shop. I figure it's time to clean it up and actually put it on the car. Because putting it on the car is like storing it. Okay. Will it fit?
All right, I'm gonna do this right in here.
Perfect. That's what I can see.
All right, ready?
Yep.
This is the glass bead right here?
Right, yeah, this is glass bead.
Hey, look how fast that works.
And you can back away a little bit from it and it may give you a little bit bigger pattern. There you go.
Oh, wow, yeah. Look at that.
Look at how fast that is. Imagine trying to wire wheel this or hand sand it. Alright, so this is running at 80 PSI. I haven't even heard my compressor turn on yet. That's awesome.
Alright, compressor's on now. But to give you guys an idea, here's the specs of my compressor. So that's a 7.5 horsepower compressor, and that's what I'm using to run this cabinet. Pretty much, I think you need at least this size of compressor to run this cabinet. Otherwise, you're gonna really overwork whatever compressor you do have.
Oh, you can see right on the bottom the scrape mark where somebody was Dukes of Hazzarding their El Camino.
So we're gonna take the glass bead out now and put something a little more abrasive in there, a little coarser. And all I'm gonna do is open the ball valve, and this should all come out pretty easily. It's still pretty clean. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm gonna stop because I need to be able to get the bucket back out. At some point, I'm going to build some spacers and raise this up off the floor because I'm slightly taller than I want to be when using this. I'm pretty hunched over. And then if I space this out, I should make it so that you can just slide a bucket straight under there. I'll grab another one. We'll dump the rest of it in here. So Garnet is it a rock? Is it glass? Like what is it?
It is. This is actually
gem, right?
it is. This is there's two different types. There's an alluvial, which is like a washed, and this is actually a crushed rock, so it's sized. Again, this is a little bit harder, a little bit more durable. This will give really good cutting action, and you know, it's a great media for blasting.
My turn. Can't let Dave have all the fun.
Ready?
Yeah, I think I have the compressor shut off too.
Let me feed it to you.
All right.
Yeah, that works good.
Okay, we've used glass bead, Garnet, and now we're really good on the trailer hitch, but that was not going to really do a good job of taking powder coat off. We are now going to use aluminum oxide to strip the charge tube.
Think it'll work?
I don't know.
Dude, if it takes powder coat off, then I'm gonna be using this machine a lot.
Yeah, because this is a pain in the ass. Do you want to do the honors?
Sure.
Okay. How about it? We are loaded up with 80 grit aluminum oxide. Have fun.
Whoa. Dude, it's working. It is taking off the powder coat. Ah! Come here. That is working. Here's my thoughts on this whole deal. Love the cabinet, and I'm gonna use it all the time. Can you remove powder coat with it? Sure you can. Just make sure you have some time on your hands to accomplish the task. Everything else, rust, paint, you know, surface prep, you wanna smooth something out, get the right medium, you can do that.
Aluminum oxide media, and it did a really good job. So we're back to square one. We now can move forward, and like right now we don't have to wait on nobody. We just did this ourselves. So
Yeah. Thanks for watching. We'll be back real soon with another episode of Finnegan's Garage. Look at that t-shirt. Hold on. Look at that t-shirt, man. That's the Hemi that won Drag Week. Just saying.
That's right.